Hi everyone, these are my A-level PE OCR predictions for the 2026 Psychology Paper 2 paper. As always, it is so important that you have a thorough and solid understanding of all the specification, that you've really revised all the topics. The best candidates will know each topic and have an understanding, will know common mark schemes, and will have done so many past papers. But these are my top picks for summer 2026. Now, I've broken it down into subsections. First off, particularly if you're looking for where to find these topics, maybe in the revision guide or in the textbook or within your notes. So within the topic of skill acquisition, and of course this is all within the sports psychology paper, skill classifications, that pretty much comes up every year, whether it's a particular question on itself, for example, describe a closed skill or explain the advantage of an open skill. This comes up every year, or sometimes it's embedded within larger questions, and therefore that knowledge is crucial. Practice methods, so what I mean by this is distributed, varied, and those ones, as opposed to whole part, whole, and part. We've not seen practice methods as a particular question come up for a good number of years. Learning theories. Now, I have a separate video that does a cheat sheet on learning theories, so do have a look at that because it makes it way easier for you to condense your understanding into a very memorable set of notes in order for you to summarise and learn. We still haven't seen Thorndike's laws coming up for a really, really long time, but also we've not seen the cognitive theory of learning come up now for a couple of years, so those would be my two major plugs with that. Guidance, and pretty much every other year the multi-store memory model or the levels of processing model get tested. Last year was the levels of processing model, so this year would be maybe the multi-store memory model, and possibly how to analyse it in relation to performance, because we've not seen that for a while. If we're looking at the sports psychology specific section, my top picks would be attitudes, that's not come up for a while, aggression, but of course you've got the 4 different theories of aggression, social facilitation and inhibition, the ways in which candidates can either perform better or worse in relation to an audience or the presence of a crowd. Goal setting, again, another one of those topics that can be a standalone topic. Sometimes you need that information to answer broader questions. Leadership, now leadership is quite a large topic, isn't it? You've got emergent versus prescribed leaders, you've got the effective characteristics of leadership, and you've got Chelidori's model. Sports confidence, again, a couple of subsectors to go into there, and stress seems to come up a lot. More recently, we've seen little 1 or 2 markers often describing certain stress management techniques, so certainly have a look at that. Now, really hard to make a prediction, but people always ask me all the time. So big questions, I think the big questions will come into the topics that I've already outlined in some way, shape or form. But if I was really to edge my bets, I'd go for some form of practice, whether that be types of practice or practice methods, attitudes, maybe sports confidence, or maybe leadership. Again, I can't hand on heart say that this will absolutely be the case, but this is where I would hedge my bets for this year. And then finally, my top revision tips, as always, going into any exam, but particularly the A-level OCR PE exams, go through past papers and spot common themes. If you're just revising from your own notes or you're just revising from the textbook or revision guide, that's okay, but you really need to be quite specific in terms of the language sometimes you're using, spots the bit that are in bold, spot the guidance on the side, kind of be an examiner yourself and be really specific in terms of what you're looking at. We know that this paper and also the social and cultural one, it's 60 marks in 60 minutes. You literally get a minute per mark. And of course, that includes reading the question, interpreting it, having time for your 10 marker at the end. So practice under time conditions. Do a 6 marker in 6 minutes. See how you get on. See whether you wrote everything that you wanted to. Can you condense anything? should you be making a table? Should you be writing it in abbreviated form? Should you be bullet pointing? And of course, you don't do that within a 10 marker, but you can do it within the small stakes questions. This is what I found so often at being a teacher, and certainly a sixth form teacher. When you're marking your own work, be your toughest critic. Look at a mark scheme and think, did I actually write that? The amount of students that almost want to argue with teachers and say, well, I basically put that. Well, when you get to A-levels, and particularly with PE and some of these papers, the mark schemes and the markers are very, very harsh and very specific, noting, as I just said, those bits in bold. So be really tough on yourself. Revise with full concentration for maybe 20-30 minutes at a time, then have a small break, then go again, as opposed to doing 2 hours where actually you were maybe only focused for really 15 minutes. And then what will help massively, again, I think we're all guilty of doing, is just make sure you keep distractions to a minimum when revising. Put your phone in a drawer, leave your phone downstairs, or go upstairs and come down and revise. Give it to your parents, as daft as that sounds. Give yourself the best opportunity to fully focus, because when you're in those exams, you're not going to have any distractions. So you need to practice that mentality, and you need to show discipline, because if you're only going to half-heartedly revise, then what's the point? You might as well not bother. You might as well do something else and then do a solid 20-30 minutes and fully concentrate. So really take that on board. Go and have a look at my other videos that will hopefully help you with some of your revision, and I'll aim to make some more videos in due